Thanks, Joe, for that introduction. Thanks for inviting us to present here, and thanks for everybody for sticking around till the end of the day on Remembrance Day. So that's very good going. I'm here to talk about some of the things that Joe obviously likes a lot. I'm very happy that he likes Peru. I'm Peruvian, of course, so it's obviously very pleasing to see that Peru is considered just a notch below Canada, Australia, the US, and Finland, of all things. So that's very good to hear. I'm going to talk about zinc, something that Joe likes, obviously, which is also very good, Peru, and of course, a genuine grassroots exploration discovery. And of course, last but not least, actually, we were lucky enough to deliver on what we set out to do at the beginning of the year, which is to expand on the resource that we already had at Ayahuilca and find a high-grade additional resource. We published a resource at the beginning of this week, actually on Tuesday of this week, more than doubling our existing inferred resource at Ayahuilca. It adds up to 42.7 million tons at 7.3% zinc equivalent on the inferred category. And on top of that, we have actually an updated tin resource. This is a bit of a weird deposit in that it actually has a tin resource which is quite separate from the zinc resource. That's 10.5 million tons at 0.7% tin. Actually, the project actually has a silver resource as well. Some of you may know Tinka as a silver exploration story from the past. It actually still has a silver resource, but we're focused now on the zinc discovery made in 2012. The obligatory statements and disclaimers and all that. So basically this year we set out to explore some of the geophysical anomalies and some of the geological anomalies that we had identified in Ayahuilca in the past few years, and actually find more of our high-grade mineralization style that we had already found in Ayahuilca West. And we were lucky enough, of course, to hit a high-grade zone in what is now known as the Ayahuilca South discovery with our first drill hole. So sometimes geologists get, I guess, a little bit lucky. And we were also lucky enough to have that announcement on PDAC this year. We actually helped our share price a lot. That included 52 meters at 10% zinc and 15 meters at 20% zinc in the next drill hole. So that has resulted in, of course, a great deal of interest on Tinka and a great deal of interest in Ayahuilca. And of course, eventually on the completion of our resource or updated resource estimate, which is now at 42.7 million tons, as I mentioned earlier, with 7.3% zinc equivalent. That contains about 5.6 billion pounds of zinc in situ in the ground. Just a little snapshot of the company. We have about 212 million shares issued. That's fully diluted of 250 million shares approximately. At yesterday's share price, that's about 174 million market cap. I think we started the year at about around 30 million, more or less, market cap. So it's been a very good 2017. As Joe mentioned, exploration success has been rewarded. There's a little bit chart of our stock price over the past year. I don't know if I can get the pointer here, but that's basically PDAC Monday when we announced that first drill hole from our program. Then we've kept announcing some good results over the past year, and that culminated basically on the updated resource at the beginning of the year. About 47% of Tinka shares are held by retail investors, 25% by a private equity fund out of Sydney, Australia called Sentient, and about 9% by the IFC, the World Bank basically, which actually has been a good partner for Tinka and helping us a lot with our community relations as well and putting together good programs with our local stakeholders. Analyst coverage, Ian Parkinson was the first guy to cover us at GMP, and since then we've had Mike Brandowski of Beacon and George Topping out of Industrial Alliance. Zinc, well, everybody likes zinc, as Joe's chart showed. Of course, the problem being there aren't that many new producers. This is a chart taken from the IPO of what is now called Nexa, the old Votoran team, showing basically the lack of new production and the deficit with respect to demand for zinc. So obviously, we would like to think that Yayavilka project would sit somewhere nicely within that gap, but of course, we'll see how that goes. We're in central Peru. Peru is the second biggest zinc producer in the world. And of course, most of that production comes from the central polymetallic district of Peru, where Yayavilka sits. We are at about 4,200 meter elevation. That's a map with our neighbors. If you know Peru, this is the capital Lima. That's the smelter of Cajamarquilla. That's also owned by Nexa. We're sit over here about 40 kilometers north of the historical mine of Cerro de Pasco and the operating mines of Nexa's Atacocha and El Porvenir, and about 100 kilometers south of the Antamina giant deposit. Infrastructure-wise, we have a main road going towards the coast that goes basically right by the property. This one heads down to the coast, and the railway line that ships most of the concentrate from this part of the world is about an hour and a half a truck drive in the town of Cerro de Pasco. The power line to Antamina goes right over the deposit. So, and there's plenty of water in this part of Peru, sometimes a bit too much even. So, from an infrastructure point of view, is excellently located of course, in a major zinc producer. We're surrounded by zinc producers at Nexa mostly, and of course Vulcan, which was recently announced that Glencore was going to buy 25% of that for about $1 billion US in the Lima Stock Exchange, which for the Peruvian Stock Exchange is a huge deal, of course. That's the resource. It's 4 zones. The Yayavilka South discovery was what we found this year. That is actually the largest and the highest grade resource block in the property. That's 13.3 million tons at 7.6% zinc. That's about 9.5% zinc equivalent. That's about 2.2 billion pounds of zinc. So there's a map of the zones. In black are the 2017 drill holes. That shows the outline of the resource. It is still open in several directions, and in fact, we are still drilling as we speak. We have 2 rigs turning on the property. We are testing the extensions both to the northeast and to the southwest of the existing resources. So even though we have put out an updated resource statement, we are still focusing on growing the resource. Here's a long section. These are typical chimney and manto carbonate replacement deposits. Importantly, South Yayavilka is actually the portion of the deposit that's closest to surface. So from a mining point of view, that would be the easiest and closest portion of the deposit to access from an underground development perspective. As you move away from that, become mantos, about 10 to 15 meter thick mantos extending to the east. And of course, at the base of that, we have a thick manto of pyrrhotite, which is hosting the tin mineralization, which, as I mentioned earlier, is actually physically separated from the zinc resource. This is some airborne magnetics that we did in 2016. You can see in red is the magnetic anomalies, and clearly the outline of the resource blocks are matching some of the edges of the anomalies, but we have a big portion of the anomaly that is still unexplored and basically undrilled. So we're focusing our efforts right now on testing some of those zones, and of course results for that will be announced as they come in. For next year, we plan to have basically a 2-pronged approach to the project. We plan to de-risk the existing resource, but at the same time, as Joe was mentioning, and I think I mentioned you 5 times now, Joe, we're also going to continue with the exploration as well. We're not going to do any infill drilling. We're going to do some detailed metallurgical work, some engineering work to feed to a PEA for next year. And of course, continue drilling aggressively. We plan to have a 15,000 meter drill program for next year to expand the resource and keep up with the exploration success at Yayavilka. So in summary, well located in Peru, zinc, everybody likes zinc. It's a good change for us who've been preaching the desert for the past few years. And of course, this is one of the better zinc discoveries in Peru in the last 15, 20 years. So we're very proud of that, and we're very proud to have delivered some exploration success for our shareholders. Thank you very much.